A comedian is taking us down a certain direction, and then there is a gap between where we think we're going and where we end up, and that surprise makes us laugh. It's also the same reason why if comedians use swear words, nudity, taboo topics, it's called blue humour, or they get the cheap laughs, because the audience is having the same similar response. It's like, there's an element of surprise, but it's more like, I can't believe they just said that.
This week's guest is the brilliantly creative, hilariously insightful and endlessly engaging Jordana Borensztajn. Comedian, magician, public speaking coach, and master of turning nerves into magic and stories into connection. Jordana opens up about her journey from journalism to stand-up comedy, the discovery of magic during lockdown, and the powerful role humour plays in helping us navigate life's chaos.
Change your mindset to live, to see clearly, and to become a master observer by expressing who we really are and how to be more of your beautiful, authentic self in every way, shape, and form.
Jordana, welcome to Share.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
I can't wait to dive in and explore some of the experience, some of the knowledge, some of the insights that you've got on a number of topics that you've kind of dived through and kind of moved through your life.
Many different colours, many different varieties.
Now, I wanted to start by saying, Jordana, do you think we're taking life too seriously these days?
Yes, we are. What a great question. We absolutely are. I think we take ourselves too seriously, and I think we take life too seriously. And the antidote is comedy. And when you look at life through a comedic lens, it is therapeutic. It gives us the ability to just take a breath and have distance between something that happens and a reaction. And it just changes our landscape entirely.
Yeah, that's perfect. And talk to me about comedy, because obviously you've learned a lot through your experience in comedy. Can you share some of those insights with us?
Oh, yes. Well, I got into comedy because of a bad date. So it was like the classic, it was like the worst thing that you've ever heard of, and all of the stereotypical things that could go wrong. I was having these, messages back and forth with this guy. He seemed witty and, really cheeky, and he looked really cute, and I'm pretty sure that it was his sister who was sending his messages. And we go out for brunch, and I get to the cafe, and I'm looking around, and someone starts waving at me, and I'm like, no, that can't be him. Get a message, hey, I can see you. And I'm like, this guy looked 10 years older than his picture that was online. We sit down, he comes, he's hungover, he's slurring his words, and we didn't just not get along, but we ended up fighting. And it was a brunch. So it was a pretty big commitment of a chunk of time. And so I was 28, I'm pretty sure at the time, either 28 or 29. And all of my friends were in relationships or getting engaged. It was sort of that period of time. And I got home and I was just devastated. I'm like, I'm going to be a lonely cat lady for the rest of my life. So I called one of my friends, and all I could do was imitate the way that he was actually slurring. And so I imitated. By the end of the conversation, she's laughing. And I was like, I feel a little bit better. So I called another friend, added extra exaggeration and enthusiasm. And by the end, we were both laughing so hard, we were crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because it's, number one, so much cheaper than therapy, and it's so therapeutic. So that was my catalyst to just dive in and do comedy workshops and listen to comedy audiobooks. And I just went, head over heels. And it's changed everything, because when you can learn to look at life through a comedic lens, it changes everything, because it turns all of the things that are our pain points, we turn them into strength. Because there's a famous saying in comedy that the best comedy comes from truth and pain, two really good sources of comedy. So when you can actually take the things that would normally upset you or destabilize you or hurt you or just bring you down, and look at them with a different lens and go, hang on a second, I can actually use this to write a joke, which is therapy in itself. And then as a connector with everyone else who's experienced something like this, it brings out a side of you that is, it's magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
And comedy really is around being relatable, right? Because people will laugh at things that they go, oh yeah, that's me. That's happened to me.
100%. It's either relatable or it's someone else is giving voice to something that we would not say and we would never say. And that's why we laugh so much, because we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they just said that or did that. So there's the reason why. Do you want to know why we actually laugh in comedy?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So a comedian is taking us down a certain direction, and then there is a gap between where we think we're going and where we end up. And that surprise makes us laugh, which is why your top tier observational comedians, your Jerry Seinfelds, your Ellen DeGeneres when she was doing, stand up back in the day, it's so highbrow, it's so sophisticated, it's so intelligent that we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. That's hysterical. It's also the same reason why if comedians use swear words, nudity, taboo topics, they get it's called blue humor, or they get the cheap laughs because the audience is having the same similar response. It's like, oh, there's an element of surprise, but it's more like, I can't believe they just said that, which is why there's a different tone in the quality of laughter. So you might see a comedian and you're like, why is everyone laughing? But they might be getting there with the cheap laughs. So it's an art form, and there's so many methods and there's so many principles and there's so many theories that I thought before I started comedy, I was like, it's an illusion and it's mysterious. And how does Jerry Seinfeld do that? He's a magician, and he is a magician, but there's principles that we can all learn.
And, have you ever come across, obviously you're careful, but have you ever come across where you've had some kind of feedback from a stand-up show?
No, because I keep it clean.
Okay.
I'm super clean. I always had clean shows, so no swearing. No, sometimes obviously the spontaneous stuff with the audience gets fun and juicy, but nothing's ever been out of line.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Because obviously there's a lot of comedians out there that kind of and I suppose meet with this cancel culture these days around those kind of, taboo topics or topics that kind of can be on the fringes, or sometimes if you're looking at a Ricky Gervais or, some of the other, comedians out there, they can be a little bit over the top, but I suppose for me, if someone's going to go to a comedy show and they're going to go to a Ricky Gervais show, or they're going to go to a show that they know is going to pull fun at certain things, what I struggle with there is then people complaining because of the experience they've had. Unless someone's kind of just strolled along and kind of gone, oh, Ricky Gervais, I'm just going to wander into this show. Most people don't, right?
I think if you're buying tickets and you're investing money into something, unless it's a complete potluck experience, like there's so many shows in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, sometimes I'm just like, no idea who that is, let's go, let's see. But when you are in that mindset, you do know that it's a complete luck of the draw. It's a total raffle. So yeah, I would be, if you are going into it not having any idea, then there needs to be that sort of, open expectation, I guess. And if you don't like it, totally walk out. I think that's one of the things that, like, in comedy, and, I do speaking, I'm in the corporate world, but when I was doing a lot of stand-up comedy, it's filled with such high highs and such low lows, and the audience has every right to walk out. It's almost like it's the only art form where if you think this comedian is terrible, you can tell them, number one, like you feel as a paying participant, you've got the right to tell them they're terrible. You've got the right to walk out. I don't think there's any other art form that, like, the audience feels that they have so much freedom. It's a really interesting thing when you're actually on the other side of it. So, to your question before, if someone doesn't like it, I'd say go, leave. It's so accepted and it's so much part of seeing a show. If people walk out, they walk out.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, as you said, it can become a little bit, when you're kind of standing up in front of an audience, it can become a little bit back and forth when there's a heckler or anything like that. And you look at someone like Jimmy Carr, right? But if I was going to go to a Jimmy Carr show, I would know what I was going to expect, right? I know there's going to be that heckler. I know there's going to be that back and forth. And really, people love that, right?
Yeah.
But in saying that, it's been, I suppose it shows that for you, right, you don't have to cross the line. You don't have to step on the edge of certain things to actually be funny. And, there's an audience for everyone.
100%. I made a choice at the very start. Will I be clean? And it's interesting because, as a comic, if someone uses the F-bomb, they're going to get more laughs and they're going to get faster laughs purely because of the extra expression that word can add before a particular joke or a tag. So I definitely made a very conscious choice. I want to have kids at my shows. I want to be family friendly, and didn't go down that path.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we all have that choice, and you can change and pivot at any time. And sometimes it will pop out unexpectedly.
Mm. And I think I find in comedy as well, because I love comedy, and coming from my dad was English. My dad tells a lot of dad jokes, but a lot of the
Have
old
you
comedy.
inherited that?
Yeah, unfortunately, or
Oof.
fortunately, whichever way. Unfortunately for my kids, but my dad, there was a lot of good shows, a lot of UK shows, a lot of UK comedians, and there's actually that power, and every comedian or every kind of comedy has an ability or a different ability, and sometimes it's the power of the pause, right?
Mm,
Sometimes it's that pause and that facial expression or whatever it is, and they don't have to say a thing, right? Like, in saying from a comedy perspective, someone like Robin Williams
yeah.
was perfect at his facial expressions and sometimes just his pause on certain things. Yeah, it's good to see. I suppose it's about being unique and being yourself in that, trying not to be someone else. And that's
Yeah.
probably a good lesson in life.
100%. On the topic of pausing, so in comedy, we call it a beat.
Yep.
And it's one of the most important lessons to learn as a comic, because if you're moving too fast and you're not actually creating that space, you can roll over the laughs that you could possibly get from your audience, and you're missing so much of the experience for you and for them. And to your point about a facial reaction, that alone, without any words, can be used as a tag to a joke. So I might say a joke and the audience laughs. And then if the comedian just does, if they pause again, it's like you're actually navigating in many ways and in many instances. And it's up to you to go, okay, how am I going to subconsciously cue to the audience that here's another bracket for a laughter? And it can come from a facial expression. It can come from, because the attitude of a joke is crucial. So if my attitude is like, what on earth? And then they've laughed and I just do a what on earth facial expression, that's another whole opportunity for them to get, for them to enjoy the experience even more.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Tell me
pausing
about
is
your
crucial.
Tell me about your first experience. About, you obviously went from this bad date, you kind of, turned it into kind of, being stand up, doing stand up comedy. Tell me about your first performance, the first time you got up on stage and told that.
So the first one that I actually did was in a very supportive environment. There was a workshop that was taking place in Melbourne, and I was surrounded by friends and family of all of the people that were actually in the workshop, which was a really good way to actually do it. And there's quite a few workshops available in Australia that follow that same model, where you work with the coach and you work with the group, and then your first 5 minutes is in front of loving eyes, and it's not anywhere near as brutal as it could be if you just went to a stand-up comedy club. So, but I was terrified. And I don't think about the fear. I don't think about the moment. I don't think about the experience itself. All I was focused on was writing, because I love the writing process. I love the joke process. So I didn't think about the fear that I would feel in the moments before actually getting up, until I was actually in the moments before getting up. And in those moments, I was like, oh my gosh, how do I get out of here? Where do I go? Where's the exit? What do I do? Why did I do this? Oh my gosh, how do I get out of here? So all of that panic popped in, but I got through it. I can't remember it because it was just a complete blur because I was so nervous, but it was a success and got a lot of laughs and fell even more madly in love with it.
Yeah. And how did that shape you into the speaker and the coach that you are today?
Oh, it is the best training ground in the world to do speaking because, as I said, comedy has highest highs and lowest lows. And it sets me up for anything. There is nothing that will scare me or destabilize me if something goes wrong in an agenda, if something goes wrong with the tech. I've had a corporate heckler before and I was like, bring it on, we can do this. It was amazing. So it prepared me for every possible instance and scenario that could scare me if I didn't have that strong foundation in place. And also it, as I said, high highs, low lows, like the energy in a comedy show can change so much from night to night. So a mobile phone can go off, or you might have two people in the front row and the banter goes in a particular direction, and you have to be so fast. You have to read the room. You have to tune into what's going on. You have to be able to go, okay, are they with me? Do we need to change? What's the pulse? Like the ability to develop that emotional intelligence and read the room has been, I think, one of also the best skills that has helped me in my speaking career in terms of knowing what an audience wants, where they're at. Do we want to have engagement now? Do I need to change the energy? Like all of that came from comedy.
Yeah. And presentation skills are very much, and I suppose public speaking is very critical to the success in someone's career, in kind of pitching a product, in, pitching an organization, pitching an idea. But only about 38%, I think, actually feel confident speaking in front of others.
Mm. We have a lot of fears. And unfortunately, our fears that we feel so intense that we think that we're the only ones experiencing them. So, and because they feel so heavy in our mind, we will look at someone else and we'll go, oh my gosh, it's easy for them. Or why can they get up and present and they don't have what I have? So we have this comparisonitis, which really doesn't serve us because we have no idea what's going on inside someone else's mind or what they've actually had to go through before it's come time to present. And I can tell you, I've worked with people at all levels of their careers, all industries. We all face the same fears. They just show up for us in different ways and to different degrees. So to see it from my side, where I'm training so many different types of people, it's a real neutralizer because we've all got it. It's just, how does it show up and how do we actually manage it? And there's an expectation that just because we're talking every day, we should be able to just get up and present. So it's not something that's trained enough. It's not something that's taught enough, but there is a heavy expectation in most roles. Well, just get up to present because you talk so you can express in every single scenario. So I think we need to be much kinder to ourselves and understand that it is totally a skill set and nerves are normal. And our body is actually getting us prepared for a brand new scenario. We've got adrenaline and cortisol and it's an amazing thing. But what happens is we get so afraid and we go into gridlock and we're like, I don't want to feel nervous. And then that tension creates extra nerves. And if our body disconnects from our brain and they're not working together, it's really hard to come back from that. If our physiology takes over, it's so hard to come back from that disconnect.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you do or you did or you may still do in regards to, getting ready and getting prepared mentally for, standing up on stage or, delivering a keynote?
Some things that I used to do that I do not do anymore and I do not recommend is when I was doing comedy and even in the start of my speaking career, I would rote learn. So I thought I would, we tend to fall into two categories. We're either a heavy scripter or we're a bullet pointer. I was a hardcore scripter. So I would learn and memorize every single word because to me that felt like a safety blanket and it felt like a security tool and approach. But it's actually a real trap because if we forget one word, the entire thing unravels and then we've just got no idea where to go and we're trying to find our way. But if we feel nerves, then there's that disconnect. So that is something that I used to do and do not do anymore and do not recommend at all. One of the best breathing techniques that I still do to this day and have learned was I had no idea how to breathe through my comedy career. And for the first 5 years, I legitimately thought, oh yeah, you just breathe in and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out. And I would get so dizzy. And like after each Melbourne International Comedy Festival, I would get like the flu for a week. And I think that was totally normal, but it wasn't. I just wasn't managing my physiology correctly. And I tried so many different modalities to try to work out how do I take better care of my body while I'm going through these high energetic bursts. And then I found, have you heard of Feldenkrais, Alexander technique?
No.
It's a modality that includes biofeedback. And one of the breathing tools that I learned was to breathe in for 4 seconds, to hold for 2 seconds, and then to breathe out for 4 seconds. And the reason for me that has become so powerful is because if we're focused on counting, we can't also be in any kind of anxious or worrisome loop. So it totally brings us into the present moment. But even more importantly is, so our brain and our body are connected. So if I'm thinking I'm anxious, I'm nervous, I'm not ready, they're not going to like me, that sends a signal to my body going, I'm nervous. If we're feeling butterflies, sweaty palms, knocky knees, that's sending a signal back to our brain going, I feel nervous, which means I'm thinking I'm nervous. So when we're doing this counting, it's actually our brain telling our body, I'm in control of this. So it's actually a really powerful way to disrupt this self-sabotaging cycle that we can so easily get wrapped up in. So I'm always doing 4-2-4, 4-2-4, 4-2-4. And the coolest part is that no one can see how you're breathing. So no one's ever going to go, oh my God, Steve, are you doing the 4-2-4? I can't believe it. How dare you? So it's a powerful, powerful technique, especially when, you don't necessarily have anywhere near you that you can actually move, which leads me to my next tip and tool that I always do is dance and sing. So when we're getting ready to present or, do comedy or whatever it is, we've got extra hormones flooding through our system, adrenaline and cortisol. And the reason why people shake, the reason why we will, choke over our words, the reason why people pace or the sweating, it's because we've got all this extra energy. So if we're not managing it, it's got to come out in a way that we are not intending it to come out. So we want to exercise it and manage it so that we're in the perfect state. And dancing and singing is the best way because we're warming up our vocals and we're actually moving our body. And if it's a song that we love, we are dancing and singing. It's taking us out of the anxiety mindset and into just a space where our vibe is so high. So those are a couple of the tools that, I absolutely love.
Yeah, perfect. And have you got a disaster story of where things just didn't go right?
Ooh, I had a disaster date. Do I have a disaster story? I definitely. Oh yeah. Well, one of my first stand-up comedy sets. I was at New York Comedy Club. I did quite a lot of stand-up in the States because it was a big dream. And it was my first one, 5 minutes, New York Comedy Club, was rote learning everything, which, as I said, not a good plan. I had bullet points for my jokes, like one keyword written on my palm just in case I forgot. I get up there, I say my first joke, and then complete emotional block. And I'm standing there completely like sweating, staring like a deer in headlights. I'm like, I've got 4 minutes left. I couldn't remember anything, couldn't remember my name, couldn't remember any joke I'd ever written, nothing. I look down at my hand, it's a giant smudge mark because I was sweating so hard. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? And I was like complete, like the level of panic, I can still feel it now. It's still so real. So there was a table where one of my friends was at, and I just sort of like looked around the room, locked eyes with her, took a breath, and then eventually it came back. So yeah, that was very, very scary. And also probably when I stopped rote learning.
Before we get back into the episode, from time to time you might have a burning question, a guest recommendation, a comment or some feedback, which I always appreciate. If so, I'd love to continue the conversation after this episode, so let's connect. I'm easy to find, but the best place to engage and connect is on Instagram, @TheSteveHodgson. But that's enough from me. Let's get back into the episode. Yeah, it's interesting, some of the public speaking I've done, it's interesting. You think you need to script everything. And I love the point that you make not to, because you do. Because if you miss something, then you'll go, oh, what do I say? Hang on. And then you just completely unravel, right? As you said. I think the key thing for me is one of the things I've found moving through the fear of public speaking, especially in the last couple of years, is that if I talk from the heart and I talk from me, rather than trying to talk on something that I don't know about. But if it's something that I'm talking about that's personal to me, that I've been through, that it's a journey, that it's a story, it's very easy to talk about it because I know it. I'm not going to forget it. I've been through it. I've internalized that and it's authentic. But in saying that, when you share that authenticity, it does take some courage to do that.
100%. I think, I do believe that when we're doing something that has lessons and our own insight, it's always going to be a much more authentic experience. And it's when we're trying to be like someone else, or it's when we're trying to do something that's out of our zone of genius, that's when we think we need to script. That's when we feel insecure. That's when we think we have to have all of these, processes in place. And that's when it gets really challenging.
Yeah. Now, I want to talk to you about magic because obviously comedian and magician.
Yes, I very unexpectedly became a magician and a mentalist 5 years ago. I think it was 5 years ago now. Yeah. So
what a great year. What a great year it was.
Well, it's actually because of that year. It is because we had many lockdown experiences in Melbourne, and I was, I believe, 38 at the time. No kids, covered everything in my apartment in glitter, glue, and sparkles. And I literally maxed out my crafting capacity. Like everything was covered as far as the eye could see. And I was doing a training with my favorite teacher, and the challenge was try something new and be a beginner. And I was like, what else can I do? I've already tried absolutely everything. I couldn't even think of another creative thing to do. So I just went onto YouTube and I just typed in kids magic learn, and I learned how to make a crayon disappear, and I fell in love. I just fell so hard and just head over heels, and the sense of awe and the sense of wonder and the sense of intrigue and the way that it allowed me to get so immersed in the joy of the experience. I was able to disconnect from everything that was happening around us and just be so present in the moment. And I was like, this is too good. This isn't something that's just reserved for kids. This is magical, literally, in terms of what it awakens within us and the ability to reconnect us to our spirit, our inner child, and that playful part of us. So I was like, I need to take this into corporate, because as adults, we need to have more fun, which comes back to your first question. Do we take life too seriously? Every single thing that I've done completely sort of, accidentally or by design, depending on how you look at it, is all geared around how do we have more fun? How do we bring laughter into every experience? And how do we bring joy into every experience? And in the process, we learn more and we're more immersed.
And I think these days we are a lot more experiential, right? So I think in education, experiences and kind of telling, like when it gets from a kid's perspective, you kind of showing them how things work and they learn more, right? And I think in the corporate world, it's exactly the same. People, have seen a lot of people that have been to seminars or keynotes, right? Or are listening to a coach or a speaker, up there. A lot of the time they come in with a preconceived, oh God, this person's just going to talk and they're just going to try and tell us all this information, right? But if you can take them and break that cycle of, and actually take them out of their mind. And I think comedy does that, but also, magic and the awe and the power of magic to go take them out of their own brain, I suppose, so that they can then kind of just grow.
100%. I think it's they're both very powerful, but what I love about magic is we tend to have a particular view about it, right? We might have seen a clown when we were in grade 3, we didn't like it, and then we decide, I don't like magic because I don't like clowns. So it's quite divisive. It's either you find an adult who loves it or hates it. There's no really gray area. And so what I love is that in that exact moment after a mentalism or a magic effect, in that wow moment, everyone becomes present. So we all are in this exact same experience where we just have this moment of, oh my God, what just happened? And then we either default to right brain or left brain. We either go, oh my gosh, that was amazing. How did you do it? I don't need to know how. I'm just going to stay in this space of wonder. Or we go left brain, which is do it again. I need to know how. I need to assess exactly what you did. But there's always that instant moment after where everyone has this shared experience of complete presence. And so no matter how left brainy we are, no matter how much we need to analyze, we all share that exact experience, which is, I think, one of the most powerful things about magic and mentalism.
And you've always got that person in the crowd that, sits there and goes, I know how you did that. Great.
I know. Oh my God. I know. Oh, always. Do you know who knows the most? Kids. Yeah. Because I do some school presentations as well, and there are some effects that I will get past adults, and kids are too smart. Too smart. They'll be like, I know, but they will say, I know how you did that. Or they'll stand up. There was this one student that stood up and he goes, that wasn't real, that was fake. And he just blurts out, this is how you did it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So many adults have just experienced it and you just called it out. So yeah, be very careful. If you choose to do magic around children, they are honest and smart and savvy. Whew.
Yeah.
But yes, there are always adults that are like, I know how you did that. And sometimes they're close. Sometimes they are so far away, and it just gives me so much joy to say, keep guessing, keep guessing, keep guessing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sounds good. Now, you had a good introduction prior to the comedy and magician and doing magic and being a magician, as well as part of your keynote and your speaking and your coaching. You did journalism and you were a content producer as well?
Yeah, so I worked at the Herald Sun. I did my cadetship at the Herald Sun many, many moons ago, which was amazing because I love doing a lot of different things. And when I was there, we did different rotations in different departments. So I got to experience features department, police rounds, a little bit of sports, like general news desk. There was so much MX. Do you remember MX?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
MS was so fun. So yeah, it was a really cool experience, especially like, moving into the journalism space. I actually went there not knowing if I wanted to be a photographer or a journalist. And so I did work experience in both departments, and then I was just like tiny little bit swayed me towards journalism. But yeah, it was fun and a really good grounding, because it was like that chunk of time that I was there. I think I experienced more than I'd experienced in, insert chunk of time here. Like, it was wild. The jobs that we went to, it was
Yeah.
crazy.
And what surprised you the most around journalism going into that?
I think what surprised me the most was a lot of people have a perception that if you work at a tabloid, it's all lies. Whereas internally, there is such a high ethical level of having to get everything factual and correct. And I think that is really, and I still see it today. It's like someone will go, oh, a tabloid, they lie. But when you're actually a journalist inside it, has to be the facts and it has to be the truth. So I think that's a really, interesting observation.
And I think when it comes to journalism, when it comes to social media, when it comes to shows on TV now, there's very much, it's all about eyes and ears and the numbers, right? And some of the things that are shown on TV, shown in the media, the bait headlines and everything like that now. Sometimes you can click on a headline and then you read the whole article and it has nothing to do with the headline, right? They're just focusing on getting as many clicks so that they can show their sponsors that they can, they've got more eyes on their website, or, their newspapers read more, or their TV shows got such a viewership that they can kind of feed it that way. But for me, I kind of see it these days that some of the stories that should be told that would be more positive in our world aren't, because from a society perspective, we don't actually put importance around good stories. We put importance around the fear and the bad news stories.
Yeah. I think the media feels very different these days than when I was there. Like, I was there at a very good time, because I was literally there when I remember the online department was introduced. So I was there when it was still old school, printed, the old way of doing things. And I remember at the time I was like, ooh, online, what's that for? Who's going to do that? And then the journalists were being taught they have to do 2 versions of copy. So I'm happy that I experienced it before it got crazy, because I feel like that made the churn and burn of all platforms of journalism across the board like much more chaotic.
Yep. Yeah.
But to your point, we always need a good news story. The amount of stories I did about dogs and cats, massive. And fluffy, funny animals.
Going through comedy, magic, a lot of fun, a lot of laughter. If we look at some of the things in life, and, on this podcast, I kind of invite people to share their stories and insights and those kind of things. I suppose if we look at people like Robin Williams and we look at Jim Carrey and some of the insights that they've put in the past, and they come out and talk, obviously, some of the struggles that people have been through. Obviously, we all have stories.
Oh, I think legitimately, like, humor was the therapy.
Yep.
So it's like, even now, if something stresses me out, I'll turn it into a joke. My comedy lens is so strong that I don't go too deep. And it's like water off a duck's back. So it's almost, learning that has actually stopped me from going too deep into anything that would be crazy uncomfortable.
Yep.
So when I said it was a therapeutic tool, it really has been in every single way, shape, and form.
Yeah. So it's a constant therapy.
100%. 100%. Because, as I said, it gives you that space to not be so immersed in whatever experience I've just had, and to have that lens of going, aha. So in the moment you can find that comedic insight, it's like, I don't need to take that on.
Yep. And obviously, they say that if you're not feeling great, just force yourself to laugh. And then, and I've been in certain kind of, seminars and that, where people will say, okay, let's just start laughing. And you'll start laughing and you're like, oh, I'm feeling a bit weird. And
Yeah.
then you start laughing at the person next to you who's got a absolutely amazing laugh. Then they start laughing. And then before you know it, everyone's laughing, genuinely laughing. And the chemical and the change in the room, the physiology, the atmosphere is completely different to what it was at the start.
Yeah. So we've got more than 44 muscles in the face. So especially before you're doing a presentation, or if anyone feels anxious, if we smile, a real smile, the crow's feet, the side of our eyes, yeah, those little wrinkles. A fake smile is just bottom half of the mouth. But if our cheeks rise and we get the little wrinkles here, that is a heartfelt smile. So when we're actually smiling like that, it's sending chemicals through our system. So it's literally going to make us feel better. A fake smile won't. But when we're sitting in an area and there's people laughing next to us, it's so contagious. It's primal. We've been laughing forever. We've been smiling forever. So it's actually irresistible.
Yeah, perfect. And in life, Jordana, when you think about success over the years, what was success to you and what is it to you now?
Success is always, how can I bring as much joy to this group, this audience, this person, so that they can feel the freedom to be their best self? And how can I give them permission to be their most authentic, brilliant, beautiful version of themselves, whether it is through helping them express more, whether it's through helping them gain clarity, whether it's through inspiration, whatever the mode is. It's like, how do I share and create a space that is so open and so fun and so joyful that there's no judgment and you can just be you, because when you are your most brilliant, authentic self, everyone benefits.
Yeah, perfect. And when you think about your life, who's been your greatest teacher, would you say?
Ooh. Good question. It depends what, for comedy, for this, for that, for all the things.
Just in life, if and sometimes it's not just one person, but if you think who has been your greatest teacher, and everyone says something different. Some people kind of feel like that if they don't say a certain person, so they tell me 12 different people. But like who has been your greatest teacher? Someone that you've looked up to, someone that might be a fellow comedian, might be a family member, it might be someone that you just sit there and go, that was a person that really inspired me. That's a person that really helped me. Could have been a coach, a trainer, it could have been a boss.
So Sonia Choquette is a author from America, and she's written like legitimately like more than 33 books, like something insane. And it's all about intuition, connecting to our intuition and connecting to our spirit and staying in our spirit at all times, and how much that benefits all areas of our life. So she's definitely been my biggest inspiration.
Yeah, perfect. And if there was a couple of key things that you could dive into that she taught you, what would they be? To
see clearly.
Yep.
And to become a master observer at everything that's around us, because we can spend so much time in our head, but to actually be present in every single instance, and to live in by expressing who we really are. Our essence is our spirit. It's not our ego. It's not our logic. It's not the part of us that analyzes. It's the part of us that is spontaneous, that is happy, that is joyful, that is our natural self. And it's only when we get stuck in our left brain and in the analysis and in all of the internal chatter that it blocks who we truly are.
Yep. Perfect. Now, obviously you help a lot of people, whether it's in groups or personally in that corporate setting, really kind of, I suppose, increase their potential or reach their potential. For you, what's something that you're still working on to understand and really kind of unpack for Jordana?
Ooh, good question. I am an eternal work in progress. So I am forever learning new magic and mentalism techniques. Like, part of me is like, gosh, I wish I discovered it 20 years ago, because it's the depth, the understanding, the ability, the sleight of hand, like all of that is like, I could be studying that forever and still not understand 1/100th of what exists, or 1/1000th. Say 1/1000th. How do you say that? 1/1000th of what exists. Can you ask me the question again? I got stuck in the realm of endless magic.
No. Obviously, you help a lot of people, and the question was really around, what are you working on? What are you kind of yet to unpack or trying to unpack to kind of, move you to the next level?
Um, Definitely, I'm a perpetual learner, endless learner, love learning. So yes, so magic, mentalism, always want to go deeper. Communication skills, body language, all of that area that I am madly in love with. I'm always learning and going deeper and deeper and deeper. I think that's it. I think it's more, what do I love? And when I love something, I just want to go deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, perfect. And at the moment, what's really speaking to you? What are you really passionate about, in your sessions, in your work that you're doing right now?
Ooh, I do so much that, and there's so much that I love. That's the hardest question ever. I, oh, I love the mix that I have been able to create. So
Yeah.
to bring in laughter, to bring in education, to bring in magic, and do them all together, and to give people an experience where there is an unexpected element and they're legitimately learning true valuable takeaways, but having this joyful experience, that combination lights me up. So however I can learn to do that more and keep doing that, that's what I love.
Yeah, perfect. Now, for those that, obviously want to, kind of connect with you, see more of your content, look at maybe booking you as a keynote speaker or working with you, what's the best way for people to follow you?
JordanaB.com.au, and also on Instagram with the hardest spelling surname in the world. So I imagine it would be in your show notes.
Yes, definitely. Everything will be put in the show notes, and we will obviously share that with people as the
Amazing.
episode
And
comes out.
I also have a podcast called Fuel Your Confidence, which is just sharing tips on how to change your mindset and how to, be more of your beautiful, authentic self in every way, shape, and form.
That's awesome, because obviously, as we said, there's a lot of people that are struggling with the confidence, but they need to increase their presentation. They need to increase their confidence, which obviously, fuels their path towards, the goals and the achievements and the things that they want to do.
Yeah. I think we all need more confidence in every area. We might be I might be amazingly confident on stage, but another area is completely depleted. I don't think anyone's got all of those confidence buckets filled up evenly. I would be amazed if someone was like, yep, filled up 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I think we excel in certain areas,
Yeah, perfect. I want to thank you for your insights today and bringing some joy. And I love your energy. And I can just
Thanks.
imagine, the energy that you would bring to a room or to your coaching. So I know that so many people would have got so much out of this episode. And I look forward to hopefully catching up in person one day and connecting further with your content and, following your journey as you continue to kind of bring that energy, the fun, the magic to life for people.
Awesome. And when we catch up, I'll do some mentalism and card tricks for you and I'll blow your mind.
Perfect. You're going to blow my mind. Absolutely amazing. Thanks, Jordana.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.